Cantina Chronicles. I'm Adam.
I'm Grant.
And I'm Ben.
All right, and this week we're going to talk about a ton of comics. Specifically, we're going to cover the High Republic Adventures 1 through 5, the High Republic Adventures standalone Crash Landing, and the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary special comic. But first, someone's finally escaped Mount Tantus. Grant, how you doing?
Mount Tantus, I keep
How
my
was
head
it?
down because someone's out here killing Jedi, apparently.
Yeah.
Of course, alluding to the Acolyte trailer that we all watched, and I didn't get to cover with you guys that I'm dying to talk about. But,
Yeah, we got to get caught up with Grant.
but as you said, Mount Tantus, Bad Batch finale. I know you guys covered it without me, and I'm so happy you guys did because for timing reasons, we had to get out there.
Yeah.
Share
it's
our
exciting
thoughts.
news.
But I cried for like 20 minutes after when that episode ended.
Yeah.
Like I was a wreck. And the Filoni time jump ending is just now like the chef's kissed greatest sort of like signature ending of a Star Wars creator I've seen in a while. And so it's like this Clone Wars, like these time jumps he's able to do and how much emotion he's able to invest in the characters with going forward in time and exploring where people are, 10, 15 years later. It's so captivating. And it's so just compelling. I really, really love Filoni's storytelling.
It's really interesting, right? Because like I didn't really peg it as a Filoni move until now that you mentioned, like, oh yeah, literally every other animated series he's done has ended with this time jump. So you would think by the third one it would feel like hacky or like trite or whatever, but boy does it not. Like you said, like it does hit you like a ton of bricks, and I think it's needed for the characters. Like you needed that nice. They're a family. They get to go off into the sunset or stay in the sunset. Yeah.
Another takeaway for me was Echo. Like Echo has now jumped in my ranking as maybe one of my favorite of the batch because he just felt so heroic, like super heroic in that episode.
Yeah. He reminded me of
just a lot of respect for Echo.
I think it was a nice little like bookend with Echo because he kind of like fell out for a while with the team and had his own missions and stuff. But when we were introduced really to the new Echo in the first Bad Batch run that was in season 7 of Clone Wars, that was the same badass Echo. Like he was kind of your POV character through that arc, and he's a badass. And I thought it was really nice that they gave him, they showed off what he could do there for the last like 4 episodes, being awesome.
Yeah, and just that final standoff in the rain, the animation, the lighting. Crosshair leaning on Hunter to take the shot. Like that whole sequence was just so good. Like that, I love that scene. Just really, really beautiful stuff. Kind of crazy that Hemlock takes like 7 blaster bolts to the chest. I'm like, is there armor under there? Like I heard like a metallic clanging. Like I'm just concerned about what happened there. Like he took he was almost like a T-1000 level of sort of like damage he took there.
Right.
I mean, we never had the mystery of his hand solved. Like, why does he wear one glove?
Right.
Is he more machine now than man, twisted and evil?
Who's to say?
I don't know.
That's a good point.
It was weird with the hand, right? It was just like a Bond villain, like je ne sais quoi they added.
I always assume maybe it's because of like the High Republic. I always assume they're hiding a baby hand, and he's just like a clone of himself. And it's the clone baby hand for some reason didn't come out.
Baby hand from Adam. Good.
Anytime you're hiding anything, it's a baby hand.
Is that
a thing?
Rule.
It's weird. I don't know where that comes from.
That is quite a rule.
I thought it was a hand to clone a Snoke, but I guess I'm still waiting on that.
There you go.
Right?
I've been waiting for that.
Yeah.
But
or it's just a miniature Snoke.
Yeah.
A full-grown miniature Snoke.
Oh my God,
baby Snoke.
Grant, I had a shift with Jason and Jonathan after that, and Jonathan was like, I think actually it was before the finale. And he was like, there's something with the hand. He's like, he had this whole theory that like that Crosshair was a clone of himself, and he wasn't like the original. And the original was like the hunting people, and that also the Tantus guy with his hand, he was also a clone. Hemlock was also a clone, and they have like hand deficiencies, which I thought was actually kind of brilliant.
Oh, interesting.
I like the sort of like theory crafting around the show.
Yeah.
Because I also was thinking we would see whatever the Emperor, saw in the early episodes. I thought that was going to come back in a major way and sort of maybe be the first strand cast of Palpatine or something that's maybe not fully formed, but is forming, but that didn't happen, and no tech return. Lots of theories and things that we had were just didn't take shape.
He teased it though, like the helmet, the backlit helmet was very tech-esque, and it was just like they had unnecessary beats on the helmets of the people there. It just the best way I can say it is I think Filoni was head faking us hard. And on purpose.
When the CX goes into the ship and sort of reprograms things and he shows that they know their way around all the gadgetry and all the onboard computing. It was like, is this tech? This must be tech.
Yeah.
I think ultimately they were just doppelgangers. I mean, they were, strand casts.
Yeah, they were their
nameless clones.
Their shadow versions.
Yeah, but it was a similar build to their team as the Bad Batch. So
yeah. Which, again, would make sense because they know how well the Bad Batch works together. So if they're trying to kind of recreate that a little bit with those different specialities, I feel like this is the first time that Filoni's having a conversation with the fans in some ways to be like, no. Yeah. Sometimes Star Wars is a lot more simple than you think it is. If you watch if you watch Star Wars, which we did, which we'll talk about, when you watch A New Hope, it is a very straightforward story. You know what I mean? In terms of there's not any big surprises, anything major in that. There's not all these other things. And I think Filoni is just that's core. Star Wars is most epic mythologies, pretty straightforward. It's not all these faked outs and these surprising things. No, it's a story of one person's triumph over greater evil.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
that's why I'm very excited for Leslie Headland's The Acolyte, because I am hoping for a lot of head fakes and a lot of sort of misdirections and.
I think we're gonna get some there.
That'll be fun. But what is interesting is I also feel like this show and what it did with Mount Tantus was what pointedly said that cloning a Jedi is incredibly difficult. And when you have, an Ahsoka, when Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, appear as these new sort of Jedi characters, and we're all thinking, oh, this is very heir to the Empire. Are they cloned Jedi, or some? And then with the combination of what Bad Batch does with Tantus and sort of showing that there's really no cloned Force user there on the premises. In the entire series, and the entire series actually ends with the facility, I think, getting shuttered and all the resources being devoted to Project Stardust, which is the Death Star, obviously. And so it's I think Filoni's pointedly saying that no, the point of all of this is that Snoke is basically the end product for this, and it's even they even need Grogu. They're even trying to harvest Grogu's blood. It's a very long-term cloning process as opposed to the Legends material.
Yeah.
And I think that's
clone popped
up.
Filoni's
doing.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. If a clone popped up in Bad Batch, I'd be like, wait a minute. Why did it then take another 30 years to get anywhere close to that again, right? You have to have this slow progression.
Because there's still all the Pershing and Grogu stuff that I think still waiting for that to, for the other acts to sort of follow there.
And that's what 20 years in the future from this, something like that. Yeah,
and it's all really Filoni guided, I imagine too. So it's really Filoni reshaping, I think, the canon and the sort of dark cloning process of the Empire and the remnant Empire as well. And so it's a very long term process as opposed to, hey, these clones are on this mountain, after the Galactic Civil War. It's just that's too convenient almost. And so I think Filoni. In a very smart way, sort of reshaped everything with multiple projects, which is kind of amazing to think about. It's like Ahsoka, Bad Batch, the Mandalorian and Mandalorian Grogu movie that's coming up. I imagine these things are all working together to sort of shape what the actual cloning process is and how do we get to a Snoke? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of the Mandalorian Grogu, did anyone hear kind of the news that was bubbling up a little bit the last couple days about casting news?
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. Sigourney. I heard that. I'm like, yes. It's kind of like seeing why am I blanking on her name in the Acolyte, Carrie Moss. I'm like, oh, how's that not happened already? How have we not had Sigourney Weaver in Star Wars?
They're spending some big chips. They're like, is now the time for Sigourney?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's like, do we need Sigourney Weaver? It's like, yes. And I'm grateful that the powers that be let Filoni do that, and they weren't like, no, we're saving her for the greatest movie of all time.
Right? Yeah.
I do wonder what character she'll play. New Republic, character, or someone with Thrawn on a baddie.
That's the thing. I could see her going either way. I could totally see her play an Imperial Remnant character. She's done it before. Like, she can't play bad.
But doesn't she? Yeah. I mean, she's only leading actor quality. Like, she's not going to just do like a bit part like James Bond did. What's his name? Craig. Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. I also don't think she's interested in that. She doesn't have to do any of that stuff, right? Like, she tends to only show up like she's really just been showing up in the James Cameron stuff, and like say what you will about Avatar, they're at least giving her like a job to do, in those. Like, she's a main character in both those movies. Two different characters in both those movies.
The interviews I've heard with Sigourney, she's just an actor's actor, just like super pro, does whatever it is, but it's like she wants it to be a good role, and but it's not like she works out on sci-fi stuff all the time. Like, that's not it. She's like,
well, she's just super comfortable, like, playing mocap characters, as well.
Yeah,
and so I'm going to put my hat in the ring of maybe a major sort of lots of screen time, maybe a Bothan. Honestly,
are we going to get a Bothan in this one?
Like, I'm just trying to think, like, what kind of mocap character do we need that we don't have in Star Wars that would make a lot of sense for Thrawn? Yeah. You're looking at a master tactician. How do you deal with master tacticians? You get the masters at spycraft. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of writes itself. But I don't know. I would love to see Sigourney, either play a humanoid character or a human character and be herself, or I think she seems comfortable in mocap. I would love to see a creature. Like, I would love to see this like awesome, cool, like, creature that has lots of screen time.
Yeah.
Red. I have one more question for the Bad Batch. I know you're itching to talk about Acolyte more, Grant, but Project Necromancer. Do we just know what that is, and like the audience is supposed to know?
I think I didn't say that. That was the one thing missing from my earlier sort of monologue about dark cloning and all this stuff, is that it's really Project Necromancer, right? Like, that's what what
we're doing here.
Yeah.
Show, and it's been talked about in the Mandalorian, obviously. And so we can kind of track that it started in Bad Batch with Hemlock, and then it's gone all the way to Brendel Hux, I guess, gets to be in charge of it. He's then later, right? 20 years later, he's in charge.
Brendel is Armitage's dad, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Also played by Donald Gleason's brother.
Oh, really? Okay, that's funny.
In the Mandalorian random episode, yeah. It's good casting.
Yes, he was in charge of Was he in charge of Necromancer, or was it a different dude? He had a lot of resources.
He's in charge of Necromancer because Gideon, I think, pointedly says, cloning is your
I believe so. Yeah,
because he had all the resources, and Paleon had all the resources, and they were the two big swinging budgets in the galaxy.
Yep. So Project Necromancer. We're definitely keeping our eyes on that, but it's very spotty, right? The history around it is spotty. We don't. There's large gaps of time in which we don't know who was in charge of the project, and that was really funny about Bad Batch is when Tarkin comes in and sort of takes over the facility. I thought to myself, well, wouldn't Palpatine want the cloning project to continue somewhere? And where's that story? Where's his motivations explored and things like that? Like, I was interested about that. So
I wonder if part of this is the move to Exegol, right? Like, maybe this is when they're like, nope, we're taking everything close to the vest, like moving it over to Exegol.
This was it was talked about a lot online, and people had various theories, but I think it's sort of like I bet Palpatine has more than one necromancer
this is actually,
site, doing different things, and I don't know. Tantus was a big one, but like I kind of have a lot of irons in the fire guy, or he's just got to start from whole cloth again and figure something out, and eventually it'll lead him to Exegol. We know by
Right.
he's well encamped there by Empire Strikes Back, right? From the comics.
Yeah, based on
The
the
Darth Vader
comics.
comics,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the timeline
We'll be
was also
discussing
say
soon.
like 3 years after the the takeover of the Empire. He goes to Exegol or discovers Exegol or something.
Right,
Yeah.
that in that book.
It's in timelines, I think.
Oh,
which
okay.
which would be pretty close to nowish, right? Like it is a few. I think we've moved along time wise because it seemed like they've done time jumps after each season, so he could be right around when he's just discovering Exegol.
Yeah.
I don't know. Be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a perfect segue to Tales of the Empire because
There you go.
I loved Tales of the Empire. Like I just ate up that entire little miniseries. Loved the Morgan Elsbeth stuff. Loved the Barris Ophi stuff. I just thought it was so insightful and interesting, but slightly under encompassing of just like the title Tales of the Empire. Like what we're talking about here with Project Necromancer. This is something I want to know about. Like
That's a Tale of the Empire.
propaganda and like Compnor and like the Ministry of Propaganda of Information. Like this is that I want to know about that. Like I want to know about just all of these sort of early development projects that then through fruition became these like giant programs and institutions. I kind of want to see that stuff, and I felt like the show was a little laser focused on just two very very specific areas that didn't really I think play to what the Empire is in my head, which is like Tarkin. Like, what is Tarkin?
Yeah.
How did Tarkin go from being like a subordinate with the clones and all this sort of stuff to then being like this, tyrannical sort of like, Grant Moff character? Like, I kind of wanted to see that transformation. There was like a few things I asked for when it's like Tales of the Empire. I kind of and like when Tales of the Jedi was just so diligent with its exploration of like a major plot point in the Jedi, which is their fall and sort of what that means and the deception that took place there. Like I almost wanted like, oh, well now this is not the fall, but the rise. And let's focus on the things that caused the rise of the Empire. Right. And like these major programs, these characters that we know to be these, evil dictators, like where did they get their power? How did they rise up the ranks? Like I thought we would see a few more tales or a few more stories involving just like kind of like imperial bureaucracy and officers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I feel like there's a naming issue there with just like so Tales of the Jedi was properly named. Both stories dealt with Jedi, right? You had Ahsoka on one side and Dooku's fall on the other, both Jedi. And I feel like this is just like, well, we're trying to do the opposite. You can't say Tales of the Sith because neither of them are really Sith, right? Because of they're only two. So it's just like, I guess, but that's also then now kind of suggesting that the opposite of a Jedi is the opposite of the Jedi is the Empire, which I mean we could delve into that, which is the problem of the of the Jedi being too encompassed with the Republic. But yeah, I mean, call it Tales of the Dark Side or something because they're both dark side.
It felt like it's Tales of the Dark Side now that you say that.
And then because the other thing is they've got themselves lost because I'm like, yes, you should also have a Tales of the Empire properly named that deals with just Empire characters, a Tale of the Republic, a Tale of the Rebellion, a Tale of the Resistance. Like you have all these, like you can do all of these mini
Tale of the Man,
Tale of the Droids. You can do all of these.
Tales of the Droid Gotcha.
Tales of the Droid.
Yeah, no, but
I'm here for it.
Yeah, Tales from Jabba's Palace, right? You can do all the naming that they did from the old books, but like by naming it Tales of the Empire, you're right. It's just kind of like that's not really what it was. It really wasn't.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the stories we got.
Yeah, I mean the stories are good, but the names.
I do feel like these series kind of serve a purpose, but it's sort of like one for Dave, one for you. Like he wanted to get that Ahsoka stuff out in Tales of the Jedi, and then I think like so that was for Dave, and then Dooku
Morgan
was
Elsbeth
for
stuff
us.
was for Dave.
Yeah, and then this one he wanted to flesh out Morgan Elsbeth a little bit, so that's for Dave,
which I loved, by the way.
Yeah, the
expanding of the lore around the Dathomiri, which is like the Mountain Tribe and the light sides. I was like, this is cool.
That's
like,
cool.
I really like that.
That's some serious lore.
My big complaint about that was, which I think will tie into what you're saying is, to me that felt like too meaty of a story to tell in 3 11-minute episodes. Give me that book. Give me the 350-page Morgan Elsbeth. I want more of it. Like I got that. I'm like, oh, it just felt like it was just too fast and kind of moved too quickly. Where I'm like, some of the stuff I would love to have delved into a bit more because it's super interesting.
Yeah, I hope her character survives and comes back. That would be really fun from the Ahsoka series. I hope she's like defeated death and is now like a pure like unkillable witch sort of entity.
What happened to her? She just got
Stabbed
chopped up by a
with the blade
lightsaber,
of
right?
Talzin.
Stabbed.
Oh, did she get stabbed with the blade of Talzin? That's not good.
Yeah, I think so.
That might be permanent.
That might be
I don't know. They're also zombies. Anything's possible,
Yeah, she's a great character, I love her story, and that she's the architect of the TIE Defender was like such a cool little ad.
Yeah,
I thought it was so neat. And Thrawn sort of
loved it,
seeing that as imperative sort of technology, whereas everyone else is just it could care less about it. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I love that they're just like, we're just gonna take your ideas and go away, and like that was kind of it. But like they didn't know what to do with them, and then you had Thrawn being like, "Nah, you are a valuable asset." And
I love that he's just like collecting talent around the galaxy.
He's a good
and the
judge
fight
of talent.
with Rook was awesome. Like just how fast paced it was. I was like, this is like prequel era like fighting in animation, which is very cool.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk Acolyte trailer?
Oh my goodness.
I know you have some thoughts.
Oh
yeah.
I am so psyched for the show. Like I can't wait. I'm freaking out. I've got lots of thoughts. I mean,
why don't we start with that minute of actual footage we saw in the theater? What did you think about that?
Oh yeah, so the fight with Indara, which is the May character, which is the sort of main character you see on the poster, in all of the trailer footage and things like that, fighting Carrie-Anne Moss's Master Indara character, and it was like 3 minutes of just like pure action, and it was like this. Yeah. It was almost like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like wushu, jumping around, floating, very acrobatic sort of fighting, which was super cool. Like that was just such fun choreography to see in Star Wars. I don't think we've seen stuff like that in live action. No. Other than maybe some of the Anakin Obi-Wan stuff in Revenge of the Sith or something. But it's like even then it's very fast. It's not this graceful, really beautiful,
and no wire work or anything.
I thought that was so cool. It was very fast. Like I almost didn't know to take away from the scene. It was like she comes in, says like Master Indara, and they fight, and like it's just like it was almost like they fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it was like a
so I have a question
on a screenplay, and I was like, okay, but it was cool. It looked very neat. I really liked the style.
I have a question for you because I asked Ben about this last week when we talked about this because there was a giant cut. Did you catch the cut in that?
Yeah, it just felt jarring. Like it didn't. It felt like
when they were having the conversation, they cut out a ton of
dialogue.
dialogue. There's a lot of. I'm sure there's a lot of important plot stuff because I was just like, it was so abrupt. I'm like, wait, what? Now they're fighting. I'm like, no, they cut out like 2 minutes of talking probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after having seen that last trailer, it looks like the May character is walking out of like that same cantina, but it looks like desolate and like there's a lightsaber on the ground. I do wonder if Carrie-Anne Moss character gets killed right away. If this is all just one of the Jedi, maybe the very Jedi that they talk about being killed and putting everyone on high alert. Like it's. And then it's even in the poster. I think her lightsaber is on the poster with the blood smear. And I was like, oh, does Master Indara die? Is this the character that dies and sort of, puts everyone on edge?
Like they could be giving us a Qui-Gon, like their version of Qui-Gon in terms of like killing off your, someone early-ish on in terms of a television show. Yeah, that'd be an amazing
that fight
move.
scene, she looked like she was playing with her food. Like, and she looked a long way from getting injured at all by anything that acolyte could do. I think she stopped a knife stab with like the Force and was just like
she did. I remember that.
Yeah, she did do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there. Someday I want to talk about the Force with you guys and like list all the Force powers we've ever heard. I've just been like someone, I don't know, it was some dumb meme where it's like, oh, a Jedi versus something else, and they just sort of said, well, Jedi just sort of have these mild telekinetic powers, and when you think of like what the actual powers are, like what makes Jedi cool, and like why are they, because they're not superheroes, they're like kind of have this other thing, and it's their doctrine. But that's for another day. But I've just been thinking about that a lot lately, and just tracking, like, every time I see a new force power, I'm like, write it down, and I'm like, okay, there's like, I don't know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of new stuff.
Yeah,
yeah. But then the trailer, I think, gives you a lot more than the sort of action snippet that we saw. The trailer itself, the most recent trailer, just had so much in it. Like, I was surprised that we got as much as we did in that trailer. A far better look at sort of the masked warrior at the end. Lots of really like quick shots that sort of like felt like they were later, maybe episode 2, 3, 4 area of the series. Mm-hmm. The Khmer character saying, the Jedi say the Jedi as an excuse for their galactic domination. The Jedi use peace as their excuse for like their galactic domination or whatever. And then he says, but peace is a lie. And that's like, if we all know that's the first sentence of the Sith code, basically.
Sith code, yeah.
So it's
I cannot wait, because I love the Jedi, and I think the Jedi are right and good, but boy, do I love when a bad guy will just take on philosophy to destroy someone, right? Like I love that idea of just like taking apart philosophy, right? I just think that's such great writing, and so it's such an interesting place to get a character down themselves. Did I tell you I have a theory about the mask? Not the mask, but remember when we talked about this originally? We're like, well, how do all these Jedi die or not? Because if they see a Sith, like, how do they survive and be able to like talk about?
Yeah, let's
this?
talk about that, because that's actually, I wanted to get there. So yeah,
Mammon. Remember, Mammon's mask can take people over. Remember? So I'm wondering if we're not dealing with, if the way they're going to get around this, if that's not a possession. And so you're not actually fighting an actual current Sith. You're fighting a Sith Phantom. That's my little nervous theory about how they don't kill all of those people and allow to keep the actual canon of we haven't seen a Sith for a generation or 1,000, whatever that is. That's my little thought when I was looking at it.
And that's interesting, because I had a similar thought, because the smile on the mask almost looks like sort of the renderings of Abeloth from way back.
Oh, really?
Legends books and things like that. And so I was like, could this be a sort of relic? Could this mask itself be a relic? And could that be, like what you said, Adam, like possessing people? Could there be like a Sith holocron like spinning inside that armor? Like, what could this thing, not be a Sith? Right? There's so many different options, ways you could go that don't make the character a Sith, essentially, or make it a dead Sith, or make it a possessed character. Like there's just lots of ways to do it where it's not a Darth or something. So I thought that was interesting. I saw the poster as well, and it had 2 maze on it, facing different directions. The circles in the Acolyte text, the font itself for the series has 2 circles that spread apart, a blue one and a red one or orange one. And it just makes me think that there's twins. 2 maze, twins essentially. Yeah. And then why bury that? Like in all the promotional material.
Why bury it and then put it on the poster?
It was in the first, I think, utterings of the show. It was something that was said right away, and then it was buried after that. And to me, that just makes me think that that's a major part of the story, is that maybe this is a tale of sisters, essentially. And maybe this is a tale of light and dark and duality. And what do we learn from the Rise of Skywalker? The dyads exist. And what do dyads do? They're such powerful connections in the Force that they can, disturb the very balance of the Force itself in the galaxy and change, history, essentially, and be harvested to regrow a Sith, like as we saw Palpatine do, sort of harvest that energy. It's, to me, maybe the Jedi are burying the lead on dyads, and maybe they don't want dyads to exist, because how do you control something that's as powerful as a dyadic relationship?
Right.
Is that something that the Jedi are well learned on, and sort of hiding and keeping secret and separating? Are they separating people out who are dyads? You know what I mean?
I will say the Jedi are that is in their wheelhouse to separate people, right? I don't even necessarily mean that like whatever, but they separate people who have attachments, right?
Yeah.
They separate kids from parents. Again, we could have a discussion about the rifle or not, but they do that. So it makes sense that they would separate siblings, right? Or dyads. So I just looked up the Palpatine's quote from Rise of Skywalker because I was just curious about dyads. And it says, a power like life itself, unseen for generations. Well, generations from what he just talked about would put you couple hundred years in the past, right? So that is within canon that he could be referring to that dyad, right? That's the last dyad they ever saw. So
or there have been dyads, but just the Jedi have been separating them, right?
Right, hiding it. Yeah,
keeping
I
them
love
apart and not allowing them to take form. Like that's totally in the MO of the Jedi, because like how do you control that, and how does that bring balance in any way? It feels like that's only going to disrupt balance.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see if that plays a role. I personally don't need to hear the word dyad said for the next like 10 years in Star Wars storytelling, but whatever. It's if that's a direction they want to go, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But
I bet we'll hear it in the New Jedi Order movie.
I wonder.
Well, we do have like the Tarek and Sarek characters in the High Republic books,
but are
which
they
is
a
like
dyad?
Right.
They're just twins, or they're just
no, they're not dyad, because I think they just get one of them like dies.
Well, and they also just straight up hate each other at this point.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah.
I mean, that's I mean, I think it should be reserved for some sort of, I don't know, massive. It should be rare, and it should be really important and change the direction of time and space sort of thing.
It would be interesting because I think way back when we talked about this, of just idea of like my headcanon of the dyad is that's just a different understanding of the rule of two. Like there's this like different interpretation of what the rule of two is, and this idea of duality and all that. And so if you're dealing with the story of the Acolyte, like maybe on the dark side you're dealing with the rule of two, right? And then on the light side you're dealing with the dyad. And so you have these parallel stories of what it means to be two, and this power of having two people. And I don't know, like I think I can't do it because I'm dumb, but I think there's fertile storytelling there if you're dealing with those kind of like parallel stories of two.
So, also found it so compelling that Master Soul says, "What are you?" when he's facing that Sith character, like at the red lightsaber wielding character at the end with the mask. What are you? I mean, like, look at all the holocrons. This is a Sith. This is essentially like a dark clad warrior with a red lightsaber. This is telltale of the Sith of old. And so it was just interesting that he said, "What are you?"
I had the same thought. It'd be like us seeing someone in a Nazi uniform going, "What are you?"
Yeah,
like,
we clearly know.
We know a Nazi.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna know what a Nazi looks like hopefully forever.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely
like
burn that into your brain that this is not good when someone's, a phantom in black shrouds and is carrying a red lightsaber. Like this is the last time this happened. There were great, wars and people were killed and the galaxy was in jeopardy. Yeah, that was interesting. So I don't know what to make of that, although my interest has peaked. I thought that was
for sure
something I'd bring up with you guys, but I don't know. It's not. We don't know anything yet. There's so much that's kind of like just hanging in the trailer.
I'm excited to be surprised. I'm hoping that
this is the best part.
Of any show. We're never gonna.
It's right now.
We're never gonna get even close to it on the pod. So it's fun to just see it when it drops in June 4th. Like that is so close. It's right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait.
Goodness. Yeah. Really excited about it. I don't know. I mean, it's been
a giant Wookiee. Like I just can't wait to see
Junis, back as a Wookiee.
I've been waiting to see like a Wookiee, a Jedi for literally ever.
So cool.
Yeah.
Stoked about it.
Vernestra Rowe, can't wait.
Yeah, it's been really fun reading these comics about the High Republic recently and just getting back into it and getting to know the characters again. Should we pivot on over and cover Republic Adventures? You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah, so we got the first 5 issues of the High Republic Adventures by Daniel Jose Alder. General thoughts? Do you just want to break it down? What do we want to do?
I mean, I think Daniel Jose Alder's got a tone and he's got a style, and it's really fun. And it's like he'd be a great babysitter. Like he knows how to keep kids entertained and tell a great story. And it's kind of fun. I enjoy the humor. Like he's fleshed out these characters. They're all really great. We're seeing, we're now sort of figuring out who lived and who died after the Starlight Beacon crash. And it's cool to see some of these characters come back that I thought were gone. And it's a lovely story kind of centered around Lula and her girlfriend, Lula Talasova, and why can't I think of her?
Zine?
Zine, thank you.
Yeah.
Zine. There you go.
They're interesting characters, and they have odd roles, and Zine's not even a Jedi, but she just hangs out and goes on missions. Yeah. It's a wild thing.
Super force sensitive, but too old for training, right? Like that's because at the beginning of High Republic Adventures, she was on that planet where they basically hated force users. She hid the fact that she had the force, right? And then
and it's weird that just like you can hang though, and she's like, okay, wow,
yeah, they didn't quite know what to do with her. Yeah,
it's just.
But she likes singing more.
Oh yeah, you're right. Turns out a very talented singer. Force singing, is that a force power? I don't know.
Ivar Chris,
right?
Sort of
Sure.
musical thing.
Yeah.
Force, but I don't know.
Does the force help her sing better? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I really like these comics, and I've been reading them as they've come out. And Dana Jose Alder, I think, like does a lot of world building when you don't think there's going to be a lot of world building in the young reader comics, but like I would almost argue that he does the most. Like there is just so many new droids and characters and worlds and locations and flying around. A lot of movement too and traversal. Like he's not afraid to just like jump in a ship and fly to another planet like in the next panel. And I just really, really admire his sort of storytelling and the relationships, right? Like the relationships Lula and Zine's relationship, I think is like super well defined and sort of explored, and you care about them, like you really care about those two characters. And Lula doesn't become leaves the Jedi Order or doesn't become a knight because she she feels like she needs to understand what this relationship is with Zine. And
Lula
so that's
has a lot going on right now, to quote
right
T Swift.
Yeah.
I mean, she has amnesia. She was a Nihil Raider for a while.
Yeah, she was a Nihil for a minute.
Yeah, just because it seemed like the right thing to do, which is like question marks. She's in love.
Can we just break that apart for a little bit? Okay, yeah, she has a lot going on. So here's the thing. I love Daniel Jose Alder. I think such great books. I love these characters. Second I heard Amnesia, I'm like, oh, we're doing Amnesia? Are we really doing Amnesia? And then it's just like, okay, and what I'm going to do is start. Okay, and maybe it's trauma, right? Maybe it's trauma-based. I don't know, but I'm going to start taking pieces of armor off. Well, okay, now I'm starting to recon. So maybe it's this weird sense of guilt because the last thing she didn't remember doing, she didn't know she did, was force choke someone, right? Yeah. So then maybe that's weirdly like supplementing in her brain because she like maybe that like traumatically wiped her memory out because she doesn't want to admit that she did that. And so there's this weird like I'm trying to make it better by replacing that person by becoming a Nihil. Okay, all right, you know what? It works. I take it all back. Sorry, thanks for helping me work through that.
Thanks for allowing me on your journey, Adam. That was fun.
Yeah, no, I thought it was.
Sorry.
I think
I feel like it doesn't work.
All the tropes that you kind of recognize, he immediately deviates from and makes fresh pretty quickly. Like almost everything that I've seen him do in terms of what feels like a familiar dynamic, then immediately sort of explodes into this fun new sort of modern take on it, which is really cool. And so
yeah.
I like these comics quite a bit.
Red.
I love how much you get Court, what's the name, without post mask?
Yeah, post mask Court.
Yeah, just being a Jedi. They had a real badass team assembled there, which was fun to see them all doing their thing and in operation. Like just always great action sequences and series that go on in these. Buckets of Blood lives.
I was gonna say
that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah, and the other thing I was gonna say too is like for not young readers, because these are not really young readers. They're
young
whatever.
Adult.
I guess they're young adults, which I think is what they're saying is like teenagers, right? Because like it's dark. Like like the jailers just space everyone. right? Which is a great moment of like Jedi heroics, where like the Jedi that were amongst the people were just like, well, no one can survive long in space, but we're Jedi, so we can probably survive longer to help others. Like it was a great moment of like Jedi heroics of just like, I'm gonna use my last breath to save all these other people.
Yeah. We also got a little power check on the Nameless, because we had a couple Nameless puppies that were a little cute. And they were,
felt bad for
them. A little bit.
Yeah, they spaced 2 Nameless puppies. I have a feeling we're all going to feel real bad for the Nameless before the series is over.
Seems to be where they're going with phase 3 is that they are kind of they're really doing some major horrible tests and experiments on these things that aren't really evil.
They're just hungry. At its, from what we've seen. And then, but I feel like we're going to get more backstory on these guys. Specifically, I don't know, in maybe the upcoming book, Tears of the Nameless.
I don't know. That doesn't sound at all like that's where they're going to be.
Maybe that's why I'm thinking this.
Seems like a stretch.
But just that title, I'm like, oh, poor babies. The poor babies. But they do turn everyone into chalk, so that's not awesome.
Mm-hmm. No, not great. Like, again, as a person who loves sharks and fear them, I get it. Like, respect them. But hey, it's also rough when you see someone walking around without a leg.
Right.
So, what are you going to do?
Watch Jaws. Again.
Watch Jaws. Yeah. Always. Again and again and again.
We've got to get a bigger ship.
Here's the
So
swimming.
we also did the other standalone issue, right, of High Republic Adventures. Was that?
Yeah, Crash Landing.
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
Also written by Daniel Jose Alder.
Yeah.
So Older. Yep. So we got this kind of like dovetailing narrative, right? So in the High Republic Adventures main run, we get this scene in the nightclub, right, where we get our character Crash, which I was trying to figure out from a previous series.
Just if only I could Google.
Yeah,
right.
she's definitely in another book.
I know, that's what I was trying to figure out, and I just feel real bad.
I mean, look for the Daniel Jose Alder, the last, I would say, junior novel. I imagine she's in there.
Yeah,
Alyssa Ong.
Yeah, thank you. Because it took me a while to find the person. So,
Alyssa Ong.
So High Republic, Midnight Horizon, which is one of the books. Yeah, so she was in the High Republic Adventure. Like, she was basically in Midnight Horizon, which was, I think, like the middle, like the young adult novel from way back.
That was the first one we had with Vernestra and Imri, right? No, it was after that. Sorry.
No, that's okay. February 1st, 2022, which seems like forever ago. So I'm trying to figure out. It was a Daniel Jose Alder. Where does this fall? Let's read the publisher's summary. After a series of staggering losses, the Republic seemed to have finally... I hate Wikipedia. Why are you having... I don't want to buy Baskin Robbins. I mean, I kind of do now. It's working. Nihil Marauders on the run. Looks like they're the light in the tunnel. Suspected Nihil attack the world of Corellia, right in the galactic core. So I don't remember this at all. I know we read it, but this will explain what's going on. So it's a Reese Silas and Ram Jamaran.
Oh, okay.
Story.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Rue is such a cool character. The random Jedi that hangs out with Crash,
and he can do force void eyes, and his void eyes just hypnotize people, or which
we see in the Acolyte trailer, by the way. Some Jedi gets void eyes for a second.
I want force void eyes. That looks fun.
I think it's more of a mind control that's happening there or something. But he's very cool. I like the Rue character quite a bit. So. Kind of merciless and pretty dark, like you said, Adam. Daniel Jose Alder is not afraid to when they capture that, I don't know, whatever that character who's trying to attack them. I don't know if it's at the prison or earlier, or gives them the location of Crix, the prison and stuff like that. But she's it's time. I sentence you to death. And it doesn't finish the sentence, but it's Rue is right there with the lightsaber, ready to kill that guy, and I was just this is wild. She's just gonna kill every Nihil until she gets to the eye, And I think that's such a fun character. It's doing what the Jedi are doing, but just on a different scale and sort of as a sort of like ragtag, group.
Yeah, and found a way to bring Crix back into the situation here.
I was gonna say,
and which is great. We know his humble beginnings with Zine on that Force-hating planet, and they're diverting. I'm not gonna say dyad. They're two connected couple of people that have this
parallel stories.
So he's back in the thing, and he's full like lying liarly, and and Zine is where she's at. Looks like ready to go jaunt off to.
But he does earnestly. Does he earnestly want to reconnect with Zine like Crix? I feel like he does want to reconnect with Zine.
Does he? I thought they had kind of.
I don't know.
Yeah, they'll always be connected, right? But I thought they had a pretty severe impasse the last time they got together. It was just sort of like, tough parting of ways.
Yeah.
They sort of like, okay, we're going to agree to disagree on this.
It's tough, right? But I feel like he's now officially been kind of like thrown off by his adopted father, Marchion Ro, right? So I feel like that's like the natural. Well, now I'm just going to go back to the last person that made me feel good, right?
Yeah.
Who was Zine. So I feel like he might have. I felt it was honest too, in a very damaged human being way, right? Like I don't think
Annie's got no chance. I mean, she's in a new relationship.
Yeah, no. But I wonder if like they'll have a somewhat of a, not like yes, we're best friends now, but thank you, do better type of discussion.
Yeah, he has an opportunity to be on the right side and do the right thing. We'll see if he does it or not. I'm gonna put my money on no, but we'll see.
Yeah, we shall
He's
see.
No Crosshair, I'll tell you that.
We shall see.
Oh, I do not expect a long form redemption arc with this character. No.
Yeah. Again, I got to just take my hat off to the Crosshair redemption arc. That was spectacular.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, for a character that I think we talked about last week that you could probably find on air numerous times me saying, no, done, hate him, never coming back, do not believe in his redemption. And now I'm like, oh, one of my favorite redemption arcs in all Star Wars.
Welcome, really well done.
It's so good. Yeah. Happy to be wrong.
Right on. Should we? There was also a single issue of the Phantom Menace. They did a one-issue 25th anniversary special of the Phantom Menace, and I've seen these before, and usually they just kind of go through what happened in the movie or the book, if it's a book adaptation or something like that. But this was not.
Yeah, I just kind of I started flipping through it. No, I started flipping through it, just going, all right, so I'm just gonna kind of reread the telling, and then like page one immediately, I'm like, what's happening now? Like this is not. Yeah. So no, and this is Greg Pak who did his run on Vader, right? And does the same thing he does with Vader, which is tells like flashbacks, flash sideways, like this idea of just like dream storytelling, which I really loved, and having just rewatched the movies in the theater. Oh, great! That reminds me, we still have to talk about Empire with you. We'll talk about it at the end of this. But like seeing that, because I read this before we watched Phantom Menace. So like the thing where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are on the landing pad saying, "But he's dangerous. Can't you see it?" Where I'm like, was Anakin there? Did Anakin hear it? And he does in the movie too. And I'm like, that is rough. Like I forgot about that. And the nice little like they build on that a little bit in this comic. But I'm like, oh yeah, that's a major moment, I think, that sometimes gets
he's like, missed, Qui-Gon, I don't want to be a problem.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're good. And it shows Obi-Wan sort of like figuring out the right thing to say. It's just sort of like his body's like, I hate it. I don't want this. I hate it. This is a bad idea. I hate it. But he's just like, there's a little boy here whose future and life is in my hands. Yeah. And he's like, I want to do this for you.
But that's the thing is like, I also think now I'm like, I almost like have like completely restructured my thinking about Anakin and Obi-Wan based on that single moment, because like that feels like a core memory moment for Anakin, where no matter what, like he will always think back to the person who ends up being forced in some ways. Not, I chose to be I'm doing this because it's right. First of all, I'm doing this because I promised someone, which is not a good reason. That does not make you feel loved. And then the thing before that you heard is he thinks I'm dangerous. So he thinks I'm dangerous, and he's doing this because he promised someone. Like, how could Anakin ever feel like Obi-Wan had any belief or faith in him with those 2 moments before he ever took him on as a Padawan?
Yeah.
Right. It is doomed.
That's why I think
from
they
the start.
added a couple more lines in this comic to make it be like, that Obi-Wan wasn't completely oblivious to, like empathetic to Anakin's plight. Because I think they just added a couple more things. He's like, no, I'm doing this for you. And, it just sort of fleshed it out a little bit and made him not look so heartless. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much objectivity in that council scene with Anakin when they're talking about his fears and his mother.
Yeah.
In the film, what Greg Pak does so well is, like you said, he fleshes it out. You actually get that internal thought process for Anakin, what he's thinking about, what he's afraid about. These sort of visions of himself as a Jedi coming to free the slaves on Tatooine, and seeing two split, like a duality to that idea, which is he's, initially you see him with the yellow lightsaber. At the end of the comic, you sort of see him with a red lightsaber, and it's like his fears are manifesting as time goes by, and as he senses through the Force that Qui-Gon's died. Essentially, it's like his own visions of himself and his subjectivity that's now explored in the comic is sort of like, it's so interesting to look at because it's showing us what that fear is, essentially, what's going through Anakin's mind. And I thought that's just Greg Pak again, like what you said, Adam, like he does this in the Vader comics quite a bit, where he really internalizes what Vader's thinking about, how he's reliving moments of his past, and how they're sort of like echoes that are distorted. They're not always like, it's not exactly what happened to him. It's like this distortion of sort of what he thinks
which is
could happen.
so human.
It's exactly.
Yeah. We all do that, right? Like we all do that when we think back. Like I always talk to my students about this, where I talk about like memory, especially when I talk about like memory around victimization and other things. It's just like every time, which is weird. Our brains are really weird because every time we access a memory, we're literally re-accessing that memory and then putting it back in storage, and we're rewriting it every time we remember something. So like every time we remember something, we're slightly rewriting our memory of it. So the more you tell a story over and over and over again, the more you embellish, the more you add stuff. And it's not necessarily out of being dishonest. It's out of this idea of just trying to tell it in the clearest way, or the way that makes your point. And so you get that. And I love that we get this in the Pack comics with Vader and everyone else, because like it's the most human thing that Vader could do, right? Which is like retell these things in his brain over and over again to like make his story clear to the point where like, I had to kill those kids. It was the right thing to do, right? Like to get to that point where he can like convince himself that like the Jedi gave me no option.
And to that point, I mean, there's a great Jar Jar page in here that was added, and and it's Anakin being like, his right after his debrief with the Jedi, which is that was a tough meeting, and he's like, they think they're worried that I'm worried about my mom, and Jar Jar's just like, everyone worries about their family. We all worry about our family. There's nothing more natural than that, and and it's a good thing to do. We survived because we could take care of our own, and I don't know. It was a nice little thing, and it's like Jar Jar is actually being the most human out of everyone involved in that situation. Like the Jedi Council is just like, they're pretty cold in that interview. And I mean, granted, it's talking about becoming a Jedi, which is a very serious thing, but just as like, I don't know, as like a human being, like as a being, person, like, shouldn't you have handled that with a little more empathy and care? that right?
Well, it's hard when the number one thing you're afraid of is attachment.
But I mean, like, couldn't they just been nicer about it, or really explore?
I think they
like it's natural to worry about your mom who you just left like light years away.
Yeah. Not fear is bad,
right? But but I mean, also, I guess as a criticism of the dogma, it's just sort of like, he's afraid, and and he just left his mom 5 minutes ago.
Like, give him tools to deal with the fear instead of just telling him fear is bad.
Exactly. Like fear is natural.
Way.
Here's how we deal with
There's
fear.
no one that doesn't.
I don't know, like we do with kids nowadays. Anger is natural. It's what you do with the anger that matters, right? Like I literally tell a 3-year-old that 4 times a day. Like, come on, Jedis. But again, I think it comes out of, I think what I'll say is, like, I think the High Republic, it'll be interesting what the Acolyte does, is doing a good job of contextualizing a lot of how we got here with the Jedi at the moment we see them at the beginning of Phantom Menace, right? Like they've gone through the ringer 100 years ago about what fear did to them, right? Fear destroyed them because of the fear of the nameless, almost destroyed them, right? So they have learned to fear in a weird way as opposed to deal with it. I have a couple of questions about the comic. One, what do you think about the fact that Anakin had a dream of himself holding a yellow lightsaber? Is that just like a fun whatever, or is that meaningful? Like it's a person with force powers having a dream. Like, was that prophetic? Like, would that have been what had happened if he didn't fall? If he remained in the light, would he have come back with a yellow lightsaber? What do we think?
Maybe if he was trained by Qui-Gon, he would have a yellow lightsaber. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
maybe that's the other thing. Maybe if
Qui-Gon
didn't fall.
Yeah. An unperturbed thing. That was, I don't know. It's very odd. Yeah. Because like it's not like he didn't become a Jedi. He did. And that was the sort of heroic conclusion of this comic was, Shmi was comfortable knowing that he would become a Jedi.
Right, because we have like 3 visions, right? We have the yellow lightsaber, the red lightsaber when Anakin's afraid, and then like a Shmi vision at the very end, which is like
I want to talk about the Shmi vision too.
Yeah, the actual vision of what happened. I mean, I think it was very. It just felt like a gratuitous tie-in to
just
to
fun.
Rey Skywalker. I think. I mean, if you look at the hilt,
his lightsaber, the hilt is very as Googling it myself to see look at Rey's and compare back for it.
It's definitely the pommel is exactly Rey's, and then he has like a weird hand guard and some other stuff, but obviously the lightsaber color is the same as Rey, the one Rey makes for herself. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a tie-in there somewhere.
Maybe. I was kind of thinking too. I'm like, I could see him as yellow if things had gone right. I love this idea of Qui-Gon's there because as much as he's like a pod racer and an adventurer, that's only because we knew him coming through war as a warrior. But he's a tinkerer, right? Like think about like he was like as a boy, like the thing he did most was build a droid, right? Like because he was like a very guardian, keeper of the knowledge type thing. I wonder if Anakin, given Qui-Gon and a clear path would have actually been a very astute.
So
guardian of temples or knowledge.
One thing I have a question about. Like the Tusken Raider that comes with the black melt at the end.
Yeah.
Incredibly tough beat for the Tuskens, right? Like,
right?
they're like, oh, we had a vision. He's coming back. But like not like as we know, as fans, it's like in the worst possible way. He's coming back to basically slaughter everyone, and it's like.
I know. I'm like, you're right. I guess. Like, is it like
but then
a prophecy misread, maybe.
But like the amiable relationship with Shmi too. Like they're just kicking it. Like her and a Tusken. Yeah. Like that's what I was like. She eventually gets kidnapped by Tusken Raiders.
Yes,
correct.
And,
So this was just a different character, a different Tusken character that was quite friendly.
Different Tusken. Yeah, the one that Anakin free or saved, I guess, came back, right? And then befriended her. Okay. But like it is odd though. Like to me, it's just like I still to this day after that and Boba Fett, I'm still not 100% on the Tuskens because it seems odd that I guess he was able to slip in to this thing, but you feel like if a Tusken just kind of like walked into the Enclave, like walked into Mos Espa, they'd probably kill him. Like I don't know.
They
I
do
need a
seem
little
like
information about the Tuskens.
Like they
right? They can slip in without being seen.
I think he can slip into a camp without being seen. Probably. I mean, they are the desert.
But I would say, like, just kind of a quick review of this comic is if you see it in the shops or whatever, like, don't sleep on it in terms of, like, don't think it's just a reprint of the Phantom Menace. Like, I was really pleasantly surprised. I got it not thinking anything of it, like, oh, I'll just add it to my collection, whatever. And I kind of like, they do sometimes with the novelizations, which I like, because, like, sometimes it's fun to reread, like through like the retelling of the Mandalorian or Obi-Wan, because consuming it in a different format, you get different things from it, even if it's retelling the same story. But to be frank, oftentimes I'll just look at it and kind of flip through it really quick and be like, oh, the artwork's kind of cool, whatever. So it really took me by surprise when I got like halfway through it. I'm like, wait a minute, let me go back to the beginning of this. I'm clearly missing a ton. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Man.
Finally, I just want to remark upon our marathon.
Great to get a chance to talk about that.
Man, I had so much fun doing that with you guys. I was just couldn't be happier to have seen all the prequels in the theaters again and seen the original trilogy. Obviously, I left after Empire Strikes Back because it was 8 hours, 12 hours at that point.
Well, and then they give you that hour break, which I think was the worst thing to do. They should have just plowed through because it was real tempting to leave. Better that I had to keep kind of talk ourselves into staying. A lot of times, be like, do you want to leave? No, do you want to leave? It was like I feel like we were playing like chicken.
I know, and like I knew Adam was pretty much there the whole day, and I was just like, I was fighting, dude. I wanted to be on your heels, but I was just like, you know what? I plan to do this thing. This is a once in a lifetime thing. I'm like, this is the child. Like, we said it last week. I was like, it's a 10 out of 10. It was an amazing experience. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
Nope, never do it again.
And the movie's feeling a warm blanket too, so I did nod off quite a bit during the prequels. But God, when A New Hope happened in Empire, I was leaning forward, and I was just amazed by the quality of the image, and so I was so happy.
I loved watching the prequels again, and in fact, for whatever reason, when Rise of the or Revenge of the Sith was on, not Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Sith. Thank you. Why?
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith.
Sorry.
Are you still there? Are you still there, Ben?
Yeah, I know. I really, really enjoyed that. Me
too.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I just ran out of gas for the two movies that I most wanted to see that were shown from 3:30 in the morning till 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning, and I was dipping in and out of consciousness on, and I was like so badly. I was like, oh, I just want to watch Empire so bad, and it was like I could not keep my eyes open. But yeah, so good for you for taking notes. Anything new you saw in that, Grant?
Well, just the quality of the print that we saw, we're just incredibly lucky because I've just noticed that on Disney Plus it can get quite noisy in the sort of shadowy vignetted corners of the frame. Yeah. Especially on Bespin and in sort of the carbon freezing chamber. And that scene just looked so crisp and polished and beautiful, and it was just ideal to see it in theaters, and it was so special to see that movie in particular in theaters, and just being able to say that you've seen Empire in a theater is a really, really fun, awesome fact about your Star Wars fandom.
Yeah.
I'm glad you could say that. I don't think I could say that. I think I could say that, but I think I saw it in 1997 was the last time I saw it in theaters, because the more you talk about scenes from that movie, I'm like, yeah, I think I slept through that scene.
Yeah, you did. I did look over.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I told the story before the podcast, but I kept waking up like every 15 minutes to check, because I know Grant was like number one thing wanted to see Empire, and I kept like waking up and checking over to make sure Grant was watching, because I'm like, Grant really needs this. Yeah. He's been waiting for this, and he'd be doing it. And I'm like, okay, good, I can go back to sleep. Grant's still dialed in.
Yeah, I missed most of Dagobah, but I do remember I got some of Bespin in there, so I was like, okay. And most of Hoth.
I think you and I were similar sleep schedules. Yeah, I think I got all Hoth. I did not see Kenobi come back. I know I nodded off. I nodded off about from Kenobi. I woke up. I remember waking up and hearing the I slept through the Tauntaun. I woke up when the speeders came by. For some reason, that sound always wakes me up. That the Wedge and everyone else coming over the horizon. So like that noise.
Yeah. And Rogue 2, that guy is just like, Rogue got 2, him.
Yeah.
I think I found him. Yeah.
I think I found him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great scene, man.
Super bright. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like such a physical challenge to watch 24 hours of movies, but to really focus on the fun, like really be present and focus on the thing. But and especially it's weird with movies you've seen 100 times, so it's like you're like your brain is expecting what to see and compensating for the fact that your mind wants to go to sleep like really badly. And so, but I mean, I did love it. I loved it. But
I went into the theaters thinking, the Phantom Menace, like in my mind, and having seen it a million times, I'm like, it's just over edited, and I was, in my opinion, where there's what feels like jump cuts at times. A lot of the time, it's just like a jump cut. Like we're just jumping in almost closer to the action, and it's very jarring at times. And I thought, you know what? Maybe seeing it on the big screen again, maybe my critique that it's over edited is actually a fallacy, because it actually works when it's bombastic and loud and huge and on a large screen. But no, I stand by that criticism. Nope. It's just way too jumpy at times, and I
remember you and I talking about that before it started, and I similarly, I'm like, maybe no, it's just so jump cutty.
That's so funny.
It's too much.
Never bothered me. Yeah. Never noticed it. Still don't notice it.
Oh, you will. I promise.
And in fact, Grant, so like when our circadian rhythms kicked up again, we like Walking Dead walked around like the top floor of the parking garage for that hour break just to like get blood and vitamin D from like,
45 minutes
and
walked
blood pumping was like we did like 3 laps of this thing, and when somehow the rest of the podcast returned, we like we survived and like we woke up and I watched every minute of the sequels.
Wow.
Yeah, we were like fully awake for all of Return of the Jedi and the sequels. It was wild. It came right back.
Yeah, our bodies were like, I guess we're doing this again. Yeah. This is just a new day. So we tricked our circadian rhythms and we're like, okay, and I got a second wind and I was like, okay, let's go. I mean, we're just sitting there, but like and eating candy, but like whatever. But I have to say, like, man, I really enjoyed Rise of Skywalker.
I know, me too. Again, it might be delirium for being up that long.
You know how fast it's cut. It was like at that point, I was like so welcoming fast cuts because I was like, yes, let's keep moving, let's keep this moving.
Well, I don't mind that. I don't mind the fast cutting. It's just and the Rise of Skywalker, for it's some of its pacing issues. I would say it doesn't do anything that's like a jump cut specifically. It never punches in on the same characters forward and standing in the same way. Yeah. That feels jarring. It doesn't do any sort of any of that stuff.
The only line that made me cringe was "They fly now, they fly now, they fly now," which is just but I mean, might be the worst. After watching all of them in a row, it's like if you don't get like a sequence of cringy dialogue, I don't know if it's a Star Wars. Like, does that need to be a pillar? I don't know.
No, maybe, yeah. I like it.
But other than
dialogue,
that, 10 out of 10. Loved it.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so much fun.
And it really does tie together because it's like the whole prequels are about like preserving life and like living forever and doing that. And then like, the sequels, they have that ability and they use that ability. And it's, I don't know, it kind of shakes hands well on 2 ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. It really is like you watch all 9 in a row. You're like, oh, there is some like tone poetry going on.
And in the middle of it,
it does rhyme
forever. They find out that Jedis can live forever, and there's ghosts and like Force ghosts and that, and then there's like Force heal and bringing people back from death, and it does the whole thing. It's kind of wild.
Yeah,
and it does, and they all keep the same feel. You can see what they're doing, but it was a blast.
And Rey's vision in the thing totally makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
Because she saw herself and she saw Kylo, and then Kylo went into her to help her live, and that's why there was just one of her at the end.
Kylo, I'm not sure what vision you're talking about now.
So in the vision in the cave, in the second in the cave, and so she sees herself, right? She sees 2 people that she thinks are mom and dad. It's her and Kylo, and then Kylo saves her, right? Kylo becomes her at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Now, granted, they did not know that's what was happening when they saw that scene, but it works whenever they're like writerly writing it, right? Because then she only sees herself, right? Because Kylo sacrificed himself to save her.
Wow.
So the 2 become one.
See, heard it here first.
Yeah.
Head canon.
It's like
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They totally. Hey, Lucas claimed that he knew all the stuff he was writing, even though there was supposed to be. What was the name of the other Skywalker? I can never remember the other name of the thing that was supposed to be Marie Skywalker. Google Marie Skywalker if you want a whole thing, because that was supposed to be the sister, not Leia. But like I love the fact that like when you talk to Lucas, for a long time he's like, no, I had it all planned from the beginning. So like, why can't we'll just do the same? We'll just do the same lie with the sequels.
They do. Marie Skywalker sounds like a Jedi that like wears flower printed muumuus and like knits boots for cats.
It sounds like a cat.
It's real not good. Yeah.
But that's cool too.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed those films because they're fun.
We all did our best, and that's what's important. And it was a really fun experience, and that was also.
I will never drink Coke Zero again in my life, even though I just had some Even though I just had another.
Having one right now.
No.
Oh, I had one yesterday at my show. I bought one for the show, and then I didn't need to use it, so I was like, well, I'll just put some vodka in this and drink it on stage.
There you go. I mean, to be fair, I had some whiskey in mine.
I also call it super virus from that marathon, and I've been battling through that whole week, but it's.
I know. I just have been waiting for it to hit me, but luckily I
think lack of
dodged it somehow.
A few alcoholic beverages definitely didn't help my cause for
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was it was a petri dish, dude. Like I'm so I don't know how Adam and I dodged it.
The smell
I know
alone.
there's a dude on the other side of us. He just slept through 12 movies, or 9 movies. Like he slept through the whole time.
Sleeping.
Like he had a snuggie blanket and just like
snoring.
Yeah.
I know. It was weird. Like he was awake for a Phantom Menace and then he was asleep. But I'm also like, dude, they're showing just the Phantom Menace in every theater every time right now. Like I don't know when he woke back up, but it was wild.
Yeah.
He slept through all the prequels and all of the original trilogy.
Yeah, wild. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I have to respect it. Like I don't know. I'm like,
wait, can we talk about how many people walked out?
It's cheaper than the hotel.
Phantom Menace before the Acolyte thing. Like
I know.
I was like, there's like no one in here anymore, and we're like, it was like a lot of people walked out after the Phantom Menace, and I was like, and then the Acolyte sort of promotional.
They might not have been
like,
there for the announcement. It was a pretty quick announcement in the like pre-credits. Just like it was like, by the way, you're gonna see a thing at the end of the episode. And actually, I almost forgot, and you guys were like, you were on it.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Oh, I will say my one accomplishment that I was really trying to do is I saw all 9 crawls. I didn't miss a single crawl. That was my goal for the night. Is I saw all 9 crawls, which I still love. Rise of Skywalker is always like I don't know if it's the best, but it's sometimes my favorite because just I remember watching it with Grant and just Grant and I going, what? Like just like this is wild.
Yeah.
A New Hope is still my favorite crawl of all time. Like it's such a good
best.
crawl.
It is. It's the perfect thing.
So and an even better movie.
Yeah. That's true. They made an entire movie out of crawl.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Well,
if you want to talk a little bit of programming for a second on air. So we could do a little more comics. We are pretty caught up, but the Darth Vader did just end a run. So there are 4 issues of Darth Vader, 42 to 45, called Rise of the Schism Imperial.
That's right.
If we want to do that next week, do we want to talk some Darth Vader?
That's not an event. That's a group of people.
Yes, that is. That is a rise of individuals that are interesting. Interesting group of people.
I can't wait to meet the schism. They love Tool.
But so it's like the first part of that.
And the free comic book day comic that came out.
Yeah, that came out. If anyone is interested, if you didn't go to your comic book shop to get it on Free Comic Book Day, they do weirdly put it up for free on Marvel Unlimited, which to me seems to defeat the point of Free Comic Book Day and makes me angry as a person trying to support comic book stores. But anyway, if you want to read it, it's on there. But yeah, that is a nice little kind of connects to Vader and just the Vader run and the Star Wars run.
Yep. Star Wars and Vader.
I
think there's 2 respective different.
All right, so we'll talk about that next week as well. That'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then probably other things. Other stuff.
Lots of news, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's so many.
Skeleton Crew we forgot to talk about today, but we can talk about that next week as well.
Yeah, Christmas time.
I didn't see
there was some CinemaCon, I think, in
Christmas time, and they're doing some. I guess we'll talk about it, but they're doing some stop motion.
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. Can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
well, I miss all that.
There's
all right,
a little
we'll talk about that next week. That's great. And then we've got a couple other special episodes. We have cooking and games and other content, and always got some ideas to keep it fresh during the lulls. We don't have much of a lull here, just a couple weeks, and then we get Acolytes. So
no, a couple weeks.
That'll be super great. Thanks for joining us here at the bar, as always. Sunday night, saddling up, weirdos at the bar on a Sunday night. Happy to be them.
McClunky.
Yeah, McClunky.
McClunky.
We will talk to you again next week, right here on Cantina Chronicles.